have Jimmy Nguyen here today from the Bitcoin Association to talk about one of the new projects that we've just listed, as well as some of the interplay that we'll have going forward between Beaxy Exchange and Bitcoin Satoshi Vision. Jimmy?
Hi, everyone. I'm Jimmy Nguyen. I am founding president of Bitcoin Association. It's the global industry organization that supports Bitcoin SV, BSV in particular.
Fantastic. We also have today with us Bay Abbott, who is co-president of Beaxy Exchange. Bay, you mind giving us a few words?
Yeah, hey everybody. My name is Bay Abbott, co-president of Beaxy. Beaxy is excited to be speaking with BSV. You know, Jimmy, we've read a lot of your stuff. We've done a lot of research, and we're excited to dive into some of these questions and really learn more about the ecosystem and, you know, why your customers or why BSV supporters should come to Beaxy.
Great. Yeah, thanks for having me, and great opportunity to talk to your audience about Bitcoin SV.
With us to dive into some of the more unique aspects of listing BSV also is our head of operations, Naeem Master.
Hey guys, pleasure to speak to all of you. My name is Naeem. I am the head of operations over at Beaxy. Pleasure to have Jimmy on with us today to discuss BSV and what it means for Beaxy and how we plan to work together moving forward, and learn a bit more about BSV. So, you know, hope you guys enjoy it.
Thanks, Naeem. I think the first way we'll start off here is by talking about what Bitcoin was maybe meant to be. A lot of people say that there was sort of this original conception. It's obviously built right into the name with Bitcoin Satoshi Vision there, but there's this original idea of what it should have been, and some would say that it's kind of diverged a little bit from where it should have gone. Jimmy, do you want to tackle better Bitcoin for the road ahead?
Sure, absolutely. It explains why we even exist as Bitcoin SV. So let's go back to the very beginning. For people who are interested in digital currency and Bitcoin of your customer and user base, I recommend they go actually look at the Bitcoin white paper that was posted by Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoin's creator, in 2008. And it describes in the title what Bitcoin was supposed to be: a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. And that means that I should be able to send peer-to-peer directly to Bay, for example, anywhere in the world, or to Naeem, Bitcoin that should be treated as electronic cash, meaning it's something that we use in daily life. It should be fast, it should be instant, and really low fee to send. And the first page of the Bitcoin white paper describes why Bitcoin was created. It was designed to create a solution for more efficient means to send internet commerce payments. You know, remember at the time Bitcoin was introduced to the world, it was about 10, 12 years after the internet first became popular for common usage. But the internet is a great way to send data and communicate with each other, but there's no native way to send payments efficiently. And we have this world where there's all these intermediaries, payment services such as PayPal, credit card processing networks that add layers of cost and inefficiency to the system. And so Bitcoin's white paper talks about creating a more efficient way to send internet commerce payments, including, and this is really important, for small casual transactions. To do that, you need a network that scales big so it can handle large volumes of transactions at really fast speed for low cost. But that's unfortunately not what has happened in Bitcoin's history. So we'll refer to BTC as the dominant version of Bitcoin people are familiar with. Its protocol developers chose not to scale the network so that the network capacity on BTC is only at maximum 7 transactions a second. That's very slow. It can lead to congestion on the network. I'm sure you see it as an exchange when people are trying to send Bitcoin transactions, they may back up in what's called the mempool. The transaction fee to send a transaction is expensive. I checked today, it's about $8 to send a BTC transaction across the network. That's not what people would use in daily life. It's certainly not a more efficient way to send internet commerce payments if I'm trying to buy something on Amazon or send you a small amount of money as a gift, or to make, certainly not for small casual transactions. And BTC's recent price rise that's been very dramatic, which has been very exciting for a lot of the market, has been driven entirely by the exact opposite purpose of Bitcoin's vision to be electronic cash. It's been driven by public companies, MicroStrategy in particular, and then Square and some others, buying up large reserves of BTC, then institutional investors following on, buying huge reserves of Bitcoin to park and treat as a reserve asset, as a treasury management tool, hoping that it goes up in investment value, which it has. But they purposely and very publicly say they do not intend to use the asset for daily transactions. So that has led to this dramatic rise in the price by people buying BTC not to use it in daily life and not to use it for internet commerce transactions. So it's become exactly the opposite of what Satoshi Nakamoto envisioned. So that explains why Bitcoin SV emerged in 2018. There's been this battle for people who are newer to Bitcoin for many years over whether Bitcoin could scale or not, should scale or not. Should you allow much bigger blocks, a much bigger transaction volume? We believe firmly that Bitcoin was intended to scale by Satoshi Nakamoto. He wrote about that in the early days. In fact, there's a famous email he sent in April of 2009 to Bitcoin developer Mike Hearn saying that Bitcoin never really hits a scale ceiling and that it was intended to rival Visa and MasterCard's capacity, which is 2,000 transactions a second on Visa on average and 56,000 transactions at peak periods. So BTC at 7 transactions a second can nowhere get near that. Bitcoin SV emerged. We're now one of the 3 main competing chains of Bitcoin. Our simple but important mission is to massively scale the Bitcoin network. And so we don't have a block cap on our network anymore. We've done huge amounts of technical work to improve the scaling capacity of the network. We have shown up to 4,000 transactions per second on our main network. Our scaling test network is doing 9,000 transactions a second. We think this year we'll hit 50,000 transactions a second on the way to becoming an enterprise class network that one day we think can do millions of transactions a second. So why would we do this and why should your audience care? It's because we view the Bitcoin network as the most powerful and efficient payment as well as data network in the world, so that we can send not just information that represents money value to Naeem anywhere in the world, but send data and use the blockchain for data applications, things that Ethereum is trying to do, for example. And at the scale we're doing, we have super fast transaction speed, really low fees. Last year, the median transaction fee generally was about 1/100th of a US cent on the Bitcoin SV network. That means you can send small amounts, not just $1, 1 penny anywhere around the world. And we'll talk about why businesses would want such capability to do micropayments. It's because it can really reinvent our whole internet experience. So we're sending small amounts of money. And that's what peer-to-peer electronic cash we think was meant to be. That's what we call the Satoshi vision for Bitcoin to be operating as the data and payment network to power all kinds of money transactions, both big and tiny, as well as a huge amount of data transactions. So it can be the next major technology platform since the internet. That's the big difference between us and what's happened with BTC.
Yeah, that's great.
It's really a visionary concept.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, that original vision that you described, right, of Bitcoin is more relevant than ever, right? I mean, you have, for instance, in being able to send payments and transactions like that, I mean, banks, one instance why that's relevant today is, you give your money to a bank takes your money, charges you a negative interest rate to hold that money, and then lends that money out and, makes heaps of cash. And it's like that whole system is obviously broken. And BTC was meant to fix that, right? It was meant to tackle that, created in 2008. It was meant to come in and offer an alternative. But we're seeing now, as you mentioned, like for instance, Bitcoin, exchanges are seeing record drops in the amount of Bitcoin they hold, right, in their reserves. And it's being taken off and, stored in a ledger, stored in a Trezor, wherever it is, wherever they store it in an offline wallet. But, that's essentially what I got from what you said, what you're looking to tackle.
Yeah, I think there's a sad, if you would want to call it, or unfortunate irony to the excitement that's happening around Bitcoin now. Everyone's seeing this huge price rise. People are making a lot of investment gain, but purposely to hodl, to hold Bitcoin, not to use it. And the question we would pose to the digital currency community and people who are customers of exchanges is, why do you want to invest in a digital asset where the value is growing specifically because people are not using it? our view of it, and one issue I've seen across the whole digital currency world, is there's been too much expectation of fast gains, right, from new coins that launch and everyone getting rich really quickly. That's nice for people when it happens, but we would like to see less speculative investment, trading, and gains in the digital currency world. It would create more confidence of the everyday consumer, businesses, and governments in digital currency. And for that to happen, you need to build digital currencies and blockchain ecosystems where there's real utility to the token, where there's real utility to the blockchain network being used by businesses and consumers at vast scale, so that the value that it has is more realistic, it's more justifiable. There still may be some volatility in price, but one complaint we often hear is that people don't trust digital currency because there's these rapid drops and rises in price. And I find it interesting that the BTC supporters are calling Bitcoin now the store of value. It's digital gold, right? Not meant to be digital cash used in daily life. It's digital gold. It's going to replace gold, they argue. But it's a really poor store of value if it can increase or decrease 20, 25, 30% in any given day. That doesn't win anyone's confidence in thinking something is a reliable store of value. So, so we are trying to bring Bitcoin Satoshi vision to life. I think BTC will continue to obviously exist. It will continue to attract attention. But I would encourage people who are interested in digital currency to look at assets such as ours that are really focused on creating a network and a digital token that is used for real, in real life, by real people, real businesses on a high volume, regular basis. We think that is the key to creating real long-term value.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the store of value point, I think over a long-term horizon, it has, applicabilities, but for everyday transactions and using what Satoshi talks about it's moving away from that, right? It's moving
clearly.
away.
Yeah.
I think
clearly. I think the BTC camp is not even trying, is very upfront about the fact that they're not even trying to use BTC for daily payments. Obviously, there are efforts through the Lightning Network to create a payment system. We think that has challenges, and I think it's odd. I saw somewhere recently that people were promoting an LBTC coin, liquid Bitcoin to operate on the liquid network from Blockstream. And I think it's so odd to be able to have to create a different version of Bitcoin to use for liquid daily payments because BTC can't be used for it.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
you got a market niche for you.
Interesting points in, I think, Jimmy, you mentioned how we generally see very, very slow confirmation times when during periods of volatility. And I think, that ties in with what Bay said with regards to banks. So, when we transfer money through a bank, I generally expect to wait 3 days for that. But right. During the peak of 2017, we recall that people were withdrawing money from exchanges and they would wait 1 or 2 weeks just for a confirmation. And, how often we receive support tickets asking where the Bitcoin is from people who may not understand or, that a confirmation is required. I think it would be very difficult to use Bitcoin as a, daily payments mechanism. It's probably not what it's designed for. Well, not how it functions anyway now. Yeah.
Correct, and it's one of the things we're trying to change with Bitcoin SV. We have 4 pillars of fundamental concepts of BSV. Scaling, security are some of them, stability of the protocol, but the 4th one is safe instant transactions. We want people to be able to feel that you can send a transaction and accept it instantly in a safe manner. And that's what's necessary to actually create a payment system, right? You can't send a payment to an e-commerce retailer and have the e-commerce retailer say, oh, I need to wait 2 or 3 days before I feel comfortable delivering your product to you.
Yeah, it's an interesting point, though, because Bitcoin, as it moves more to this treasury reserve asset, this digital gold, as you say, it carves out more of a market niche for other assets that can do the job better, that can create that nano-transaction economy. And I wanted to get into that a little bit with you, Jimmy, is this idea of this new economy completely powered by nano-transactions, and something certainly that scales a lot better, that can handle bigger block sizes, and that can do it for lower fees is something that we would need if we were to, say, pay out fractions of a cent to everybody who's watching, ads on Brave browser or whatever the case may be, right? Could you go into that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question because people often ask me, well, why would you need to be able to send a payment that is less than 1 penny or 1 penny? It's because it opens up an incredibly powerful new world of business models. So nano services is where we're headed, where you can send what I call not even micro payments, not just 10 cents, nano payments, less than 1 US penny even, anywhere in the world instantly. I'll give you an example of how this is being played out in the BSV world. There's a new game that's launched called Haste. It's an experimental game where you download a mobile app and you have to basically hit something really quickly to be able to move up the leaderboard. And the faster you hit it measured in milliseconds, the more you move up the leaderboard, and you're contributing money to a pot that gets distributed against many people as they go up on the leaderboard. And you might get half a cent, 3/4 of a cent, 1.5 cents. And they're able to distribute small amounts of payments to many people because it costs so little to send a transaction on BSV. Is this the magic answer for games for the future? No, but it opens up whole new business models. You mentioned the idea of paying people to see advertising. There are social media and online services in BSV which are trying to reinvent the internet. We have an internet model now where services to us like Twitter and Facebook and Google are free, quote unquote, but our data is sold, or we are served advertising, and people don't like that, as we're seeing with some of the controversies over social media. But what if you could reinvert the model where advertisers pay you as a consumer directly to watch ads instead of having the service, the platform like a Facebook or Google sell your data? You get paid by 10 seconds, every 30 seconds to watch an ad that might be optimized for you. And it's paid digitally to your BSV wallet, which you can do. No advertiser is going to pay you $1 to watch their ad, but they might pay you 2 cents, 3 cents, and you might watch it for 2 or 3 cents. I don't like newspaper paywalls on websites where you have to pay, $10 a month to subscribe to a newspaper, but I might pay 10 cents to read a particular article that I'm interested in. And there's no efficient way in today's internet payment system to pay only 5 cents or 10 cents because of credit card processing fees and minimums. But we can enable that with Bitcoin SV with these micro nano payment capabilities. So those are some examples of how opening the ability to instantly send 1 US penny, less than a penny, allows for entrepreneurs and creative business people all kinds of new opportunities. The last example I'll give is in the IoT space. We think this is an incredible opportunity for Internet of Things and the pairing with Bitcoin SV. It's estimated that by 2024, there will be over 80-some billion IoT endpoints across the world, all collecting data and sending data across IoT networks. And a lot of cities, companies, and organizations are looking for ways to monetize that data for example, the data that's reported from your refrigerator or your Fitbit, activity device. Well, you could get paid for allowing companies to authorize small streams of your data with small nano payments with BSV. And so that is an area of incredible excitement for us. And so that's why we're so interested in Bitcoin as not just a payment network, but the fusion of data, bit, and coin money in one network, which has not existed before. That's what Bitcoin is when you think about it.
Yeah.
Data, bit, money, coin, combined into one.
It's very interesting. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's interesting that you're talking about this, Jimmy, and let me talk about just what came to mind at first for me. So there's this, I don't know if you read the book or maybe you've seen the movie, it's called Flash Boys. And what the premise of that is that getting orders to the exchange as quickly as possible, they were able to jump in line and get their orders filled before another company was able to do this. And the premise of the movie was that they basically, burrowed all the way through the mountains in West Virginia to get, to the central hub. And it's just like highlights the importance of a millisecond, a microsecond, all those things, right? But that hasn't really been adopted in currency. It hasn't really been adopted. So you talking about that, it just kind of brought that to mind, and how important and how revolutionary that was for the world of trading, that could have the same impact, arguably, on digital currency.
Absolutely. I think it'd be really important for developing countries in particular. If you live in a westernized country, you have access to very easy to use financial services. For developing countries in Africa, in the Philippines, for example, where you have 80% of people who are unbanked, they don't have bank accounts. They may have jobs, but no bank account. Having a digital wallet with Bitcoin SV micropayment capability will allow them to do things such as get microloans to start businesses, to be able to send remittances much more efficiently. One of the BSV companies in South Africa called SentB has a remittance program between South Africa and Nigeria. Instead of paying 8 to 10% of an amount to send money to your family into another country, which is a huge amount to lose if you are a migrant worker, for example, they can do it for a much smaller fee because it only costs them using BSV as the payment rail,
Right.
less than 1/100th of a cent to send the actual coin, and then they have to do obviously a fiat currency exchange on the back end, but it reduces the cost and increases the speed a lot. You're not waiting a week for the remittance to clear at a Western Union, for example, or a similar service. You can do it almost instantly. So there's huge efficiencies that the speed and nano payment capabilities of BSV can open up. But I do want to emphasize just the unique business models that people are coming up with. Paying, for example, putting videos like this on a platform, not YouTube, but there's one in BSV called Streamanity, where you could actually charge by the second. Right, that people are paying you, the content creator. The longer they watch, the more they pay, pulling out micro payments of BSV from your digital wallets. People have created a new form of Twitter, Twitch, and Instagram, Relica, where the content owner, if you're posting a message or a picture, people every time they like or comment on it, tip you 2 cents, 3 cents. It's not a lot, but it allows a content creator, especially if they become an influencer, to make money in a way you cannot do today on Instagram or even YouTube. Unless you get a huge following and meet certain metrics, you can't generate revenue directly on YouTube. So the possibility for reinventing the internet and changing how internet payments models work to give more power to the user and the content creator is a very exciting area that we've opened up with BSV. And it's very timely, especially as people complain about Twitter deplatforming, for example, that's been happening in the political realm.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned Twitter deplatforming, right? So I saw an interesting tweet the other day that was like, okay, you're going to build your own social media, but now you have to build your own web hosting server with Amazon, right? And now you have to build your own search engine with Google, and then you have to, right? So maybe, yeah, okay, great, you're building your own, Twitter, but there's so many other things, the web hosting and then the search engine and all of these things that big tech companies really have a stronghold, right? So, it's just interesting, seeing things unfold.
Well, the blockchain can solve some of that. For example, some of the social media applications I've mentioned on BSV, the data, the content is actually recorded to the blockchain. So you're not dependent upon a cloud service such as Amazon Web Services. If I post a Twitch or a Relica image, the file gets added to the blockchain. So I, as the posting person, the creator, pay a little bit of Bitcoin SV, 10 cents, for example, to upload an image, but then I earn money back when people interact with it. And even if that service ever deplatforms me, my data still lives on the blockchain, and therefore I can access it through other services or applications.
Yeah, that's amazing, right? So I think that's important, especially in the world that's evolving today. So
definitely. I mean, the future of the internet is one that's more obviously pushing towards decentralization and pushing towards the private ownership of one's data, right? And what it truly means to not have to rely on that. So it's really interesting to hear how you guys are sort of forging the path in that regard.
That only works though if there's a way to incentivize monetarily new ways to deal with content and data rather than relying on the traditional ad-supported models of free services to consumers. There has to be ways for users to send bits of money to each other to sustain these business models, and that's what BSV is enabling.
Right. I think the line in Silicon Valley forever has been if the product is free, then you are the product, right? If you're being given the product, right, then your data is the product.
Yeah, and we're reinventing that so that you are not just the product, but you're actually the creator and revenue generator.
Exactly. It's really powerful. One question I did want to move to is the idea that although maybe not the biggest player in the market, the U.S. is certainly one of the largest crypto markets and growing in that regard. What do you think about the move for BSV onto Beaxy Exchange? What value do you see sort of in that BSV USD fiat pair on Beaxy Exchange?
Yeah, I think it's very important for us because we needed to get on more US exchanges. Obviously, it's no secret that there are a few exchanges that delisted BSV, including one of the major US ones. And so giving more access to US users and customers to BSV has been important for us. So thank you very much for adding us to your US exchange and having a USD trading pair. I know you are available in, I believe, about 42 states, so it provides pretty broad reach for us. We also are very mindful in the BSV ecosystem of leading creation of a regulation-friendly, legally compliant digital currency world. So we love the fact that Beaxy is a MSB registered money services business registered with FinCEN, is compliant, uses Curve, which we also have a partnership with for securing your digital assets, and that provides also insurance coverage with the FDIC up to a considerable amount for users in the United States. So all of those things check the boxes of the practices we want to see, not just for BSV as an asset on exchange, but for the whole industry. So we think it's great, and it also will provide US users access to BSV to use with some of these applications we've talked about. It's one thing we've been hearing from our community. We need more places in the United States to acquire BSV, and it's necessary to have fiat onboarding as well as offboarding ramps for people to get BSV for the first time. So we think it's fantastic, and we really appreciate you doing so and look forward to collaborating with you a lot on promoting BSV in the US.
Yeah, likewise. The dollar is, still the world's reserve currency, right? And it's actually 88% of Forex trading is in the dollar, right? So something exciting that we want to announce, and that we think that this is the perfect time to announce it, right? Talking about the dollar and talking about Forex, is that we will be the first US exchange, actually the first exchange in crypto to be integrated with MetaTrader 5. So MetaTrader, just some brief background for the people that don't know about MetaTrader 5. MetaTrader is one of the largest Forex platforms in the world. They are by far the most popular. Traditionally, MetaTrader was was segmented to CFDs, contracts for difference, in Forex, right? And it's been the most popular platform for about 15 years. So, a couple of years later, they came out with MetaTrader 5. The difference is that it's a multi-asset platform, right? And you can not just trade CFDs and Forex, but you can trade stocks, and you can trade equities and options and all these different things, right? So MetaTrader is by far and large the most used Forex platform, and us being able to offer spot crypto on MetaTrader we think it's pretty noteworthy, right? So I thought it was a good time to kind of drop that in there and announce that. But I think that obviously we'll offer BSV to MetaTrader traders,
Awesome.
right? So
congratulations on that, and I think it's a great opportunity to promote BSV as well as your other listed assets around the world.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good exposure for crypto in general, right? Forex is multi-trillion dollar industry, yes, or multi-trillion dollar market, I should say. And tapping into or being able to tap into the largest platform gives a new exposure to crypto. So we're kind of excited about that. We'll see. All good things take time to develop. So as we push this and gain traction with it, we'll be excited to talk more about BSV.
Great, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Naeem, what's your take on listing BSV? I know you were probably the more central than anybody in this from the Beaxy side of things. What's your take on the advantages to US users?
I think it is very important for users BSVs to have a USD ramp, because like Jimmy said, that a lot of exchanges have not only, they've delisted BSV, and that eliminates a large percentage of people that are able to trade or purchase BSV for, for whatever reason. with Beaxy offering a USD pairing, you know, it stops people from having to buy on Coinbase, move it over to another exchange, then move it over to Beaxy, and you know, we're trying to reduce that layer of friction. So I think BSV has been a great listing. Absolutely, it's one that we, you know, we have wanted to, well, that we have decided to capitalize on, and we do look forward to working with BSV in that regard. The USD market did make sense. There was a, you know, reasonable amount of discussion, you know, between us beforehand, and it did make sense. So now that we can, you know, offer users a full USD ramp, it's brilliant in my opinion for BSV.
Next question though, because you mentioned there's a couple other exchanges with that pair. You know, what is the why Beaxy, right? If there's 40 other exchanges, and this is kind of to the field, right? So feel free to hop in, Bay or Jimmy or Naeem, but what advantages does Beaxy offer that maybe are not offered on Binance or some of your bigger ones?
Any asset supporter would want their asset on as many exchanges as possible. And for us, though, it's not just about any exchange. It's about some of the criteria I listed, you know, before, which is secure and compliant. You know, there are a lot of exchanges out there that we think have questionable practices and are not registered in their operating jurisdictions. And so clearly Beaxy is an MSB registered entity with FinCEN, which is very important. Obviously in the United States, it has fiat on-ramps and off-ramps. It's got fairly broad availability in the US, including in certain states such as Nevada and West Virginia, which not all the other exchanges do in the US. And we like that, you know, you use Curve because we have great respect for Curve as a security solution for asset holders and exchanges. We have a relationship with Curve, and you know, it fits a lot of the criteria we like to see in exchanges. So, Bay, you probably have more to add to that.
Yeah, thanks, Jimmy. No, that sums up a lot of the points, right? I think the main value proposition for traders, right? I mean, that's the bread and butter of an exchange is when people trade, and for BSV too, right? It's important. So a low fee US exchange that you can trade profitably on, right? And I think that trade profitably part is important because you think an exchange, you know, what really makes the difference? Why would you go to an exchange? Because it has the tools you can need, and that aspect of trading profitably is, you know, it's something that you can really hit home on, right? So, and when I say that, so we took, you know, a concept that's been around forever, a company that's been in the space for about 15 years. They're called auto chartists, right? And what they do is they generate signals on Forex pairs, on all different kinds of assets, right? So they, you know, recently got into crypto, and they are generating technical analysis pre-printed signals based on, you know, 15 years of data, obviously not in crypto, 15 years of data, but of the data that they have, you know, what chart patterns lead to what indicators and whatnot. And we took those and we added it into the exchange. So on our charts are pre-printed signals that, you know, predict with great accuracy the direction an asset's likely to go for that time frame. So for instance, you know, a signal on BSV, right? It could be like in a 15-minute window, it's likely to, you know, go up, and then it'll actually give you a target that it's going to go up by, right? So these are third-party signals generated by a company that's been doing this for a while, and it's just a different aspect to crypto that hasn't really been introduced, right? That's not really something that you've ever heard of in crypto. Is you know, I mean, there's so many different traders on Twitter that you can, you know, go on and you're like, oh, here, you know, this chart looks good, and then you have to kind of decipher that information and decide for yourself. But this is a company that has done this and has a track record, and they actually do it well, right? 70% of the time, these signals are right? So, and we, you know, have the data and have presented and all that stuff. But I think that's a major selling point, right? I mean, you look at so many different exchanges, you're like, okay, well, do they have a good API? Do they have, you know, custody? Do they have, yeah, those are pretty much all par for the course. Like every exchange arguably should have custody, right? I mean, you should, maybe not Curve, but, you know, it's like, so, I mean, that's almost one of the big detractors to crypto is, you know, are my assets going to get stolen, right? I was just talking with someone the other day. So that you know, that's a way that you can really differentiate yourself. And I mean, that's great, right? We have all the API. I mean, we have, you know, a 17 millisecond ping on our API, which is great. And people love that stuff, right? But that's another thing that, you know, other exchanges might have, right? So it's good to be able to kind of hang your hat on that, right? And be able to differentiate yourself in that regard. So that's, you know, kind of the short and long version of why you would, you know, trade BSV on Beaxy.
I think to add to that as well, one of the things that we have in the pipeline, along with USD, is we've got the other 5 major global currencies on the way as well. They're fully integrated in the platform. So we have the euro, the British pound, the Japanese yen, the Canadian dollar, and the Australian dollar. So, you know, it's more exposure for BSVs, for, you know, more of a ramp for more people to get BSV and Beaxy. So yeah, no, I think that's another good selling point of Beaxy and why people would want to trade BSV on Beaxy.
Yeah, it's great to hear you've got those other major currencies coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be a truly, you know, global operation once those other currencies come online. One thing that we do hear from some folks on Twitter and elsewhere is, you know, we're one of the first to offer this automated technical analysis feature, and some are like, you know, I just don't trust that because it seems like the exchange just wants me to trade. But like we said, it's not us offering the technical analysis. It's a proven partner with a 70% win rate. So for the BSV fans out there, you can rest assured it's a pretty good deal. So this is going to be a fun one, I think, Jimmy, because it's exciting based on what I've read before. But people want to know, I think, especially in the Beaxy community, what the hype on BSV is about in terms of real world applications and what real world things are out there that BSV is doing to change the game, especially at the enterprise level. Or I know that's one that's often touted. Can you go into some of the stuff you're doing right now or have done in the past that is like real world on the ground happening?
Absolutely. And I think our main mission, why we're so different than the rest of the blockchain space, is we really are trying to be the all-in-one chain. Satoshi even wrote in 2009 in that email to Mike Hearn, there's only one global chain. Now, do I think all the other cryptocurrencies are going away? No. But the challenges Ethereum is facing, for example, trying to be the enterprise smart contract blockchain we're solving, and that allows a lot of use cases to come to us. So let me give your audience a few examples of some of the bigger things. It was announced recently that the small island nation of Tuvalu in the South Pacific is going to be building a national public digital ledger to move all of its government services and things such as your national ID and even payment systems and government records to the blockchain. And it's going to be building it on Bitcoin SV with nChain, the leading technology company in our space, as well as 2 other companies, Faya and ELS Digital out of Australia. So it's a small country, you know, but it's about 11, 12,000 people, but it's an entire country saying we believe in the use of a public ledger such as Bitcoin SV, and it has the data capacity and low fees to handle not just our payments, but our entire national government system of records and even ID. So that's a really powerful example of the capabilities you can do on a ledger like BSV. In addition, in the healthcare industry, we have 2 significant companies. One is EHR Data, which is building on the Bitcoin SV blockchain, a global electronic healthcare record system. Because one of the advantages of a blockchain is that it can eliminate data silos. In the US, our healthcare information is very siloed. Your primary care physician has certain information about you, your pharmacy, labs you go to, the hospital, the specialist you go see for particular surgery, and they're all separate. But by creating a universal healthcare record that is accessible through the blockchain, they can create opportunities for better healthcare decision-making where a physician has access to all your real-time information at once. They're building that on the Bitcoin SV blockchain because they needed a chain that could scale and that could do this for very low fees. They're also creating a system to allow you as the patient to be a consumer and revenue generator from your own healthcare data, which we cannot do now. So for example, they're creating a utility where, for example, if you are a patient, a pharmaceutical company can come along, they're doing research into some drug or condition, and they want access to patient data. There's no easy way for you as the patient now to authorize that data or get paid for it. But they're creating a utility where someone can request data, you as a patient can elect to authorize providing your data. It'll be pulled from various sources, from your electronic healthcare record, and everyone in the value chain who's contributed to that data, your primary care physician, your pharmacy, maybe labs, can get paid in small amounts of BSV micropayments or through perhaps a token they're going to create on it. So they are working on their proof of concept to launch in the state of Missouri with pharmacies there, including to combat the opioid addiction crisis that's happening in the US, because people get addicted to pain-killing drugs often because their doctors do not have their complete medical history or they're refilling prescriptions at multiple pharmacies. So it's a great example of a powerful use case. There's another healthcare company that's launched in BSV called Veridat, which is trying to combat the problem of fraud, sometimes outright fraud, or just unrecorded mistakes or changes in clinical research data. So when a pharmaceutical company is testing new drugs, such as a COVID-19 vaccine, they have to do clinical tests. And sometimes that data in the test gets changed, but there's not a clear record of it. And that can lead to outright fraud or just inconsistencies in data. They're using the BSV blockchain, including right now testing with one of the major pharmaceutical companies in the world that I cannot disclose yet, but will be disclosed, we think, in the next month. Use of their platform, which hashes the data to the BSV blockchain. So there's a record of the data. So if a researcher ever changes any data element, it can be detected. So it's very exciting. They presented it to government agencies as well as pharmaceutical companies for use of the data on the blockchain for honesty, something that's very important in the Bitcoin white paper. The word honest is used 15 times. And in the future, that data can be monetized as well. Supply chain management, there's a Norwegian company called Unisat, which stands for Universal Source of Truth, which has created a supply chain management platform, which integrates with SAP's platform. Built on BSV, SAP is used to manage 80+% of the world's supply chain, and they can track the shipment of products, starting with fish. They have a seafood test with tracking fish from farm to wholesaler to sushi restaurant chain, and creating an app so that consumers can track the origin of fish, and even collecting data to a granular level, such as the temperature and weight of fish at different stages in the journey, so that companies who are interested in it can pay for that level of granular data through BSV payments. So those are some really interesting examples of enterprise class usage. There's an AR and VR company in the US called Transmira, which is going to be implementing BSV tokenized virtual items, such as in a Pokemon game. If you're collecting items, they can be BSV payments or a token or a rewards coupon, and using that to promote events with sponsors. There's IoT usages, as I mentioned. Someone's testing a voting app in Australia to test with municipalities or even corporations to record votes on a blockchain so that there's less dispute over the accuracy of voting. There's an organization called Predict Ecology, which is using the BSV blockchain to record data from trees that they audit in the city of Cairns in Australia, to be able to use that data, for example, potentially for tracking carbon dioxide emissions and achieving sustainability goals of the city. So, and then the final example I'll mention is a great company out of Cambridge in the UK called Geospoc, which is created a database solution to manage not just the big data we have in the world, but like the extreme scale data. As I mentioned before, 80+ billion IoT endpoints that will exist in the world in the next few years. How do companies manage all that data, right? It's massive. So they've developed a database solution to help companies sift through, analyze, and make decisions based upon that data. They've announced a deal with nChain, an investment that they announced at the end of last year, where they'll be working with nChain, which is our big BSV tech company, to integrate a BSV payment capability into their extreme scale database solutions to make all of this data capable of being monetized. So those are all things in development, in process. I predict this year will be a big year for a lot of these coming on chain and active. It's taken a little while to lay the technical foundation to create these business relationships. But as you can see from these and many more things I know are coming, if you have patience, I think the BSV world is set for a big year of real data activity. Going back to where we started this whole, video conversation, for real usage in daily life at high scale for payments of even small amounts, less than a cent, 1 cent, 5 cents, and data combined in one. That's our vision, and that's why a lot of businesses have been very excited to talk to us, especially the ones that have wanted to create things on Ethereum, but have been basically priced out by the exorbitant gas fees that are happening on Ethereum. A lot of them are talking to us, and I think you can see the diversity and excitement of new enterprise business models, as well as even government ones that I think will be emerging publicly in the coming months.
Yeah, I was reading about EHR, right, and what they want to accomplish with BSV. I mean, 5,000 to 6,000 transactions per day, eventually at the, when they're all the way up and running, is a lot. And, it sounds like the BSV Terra node with 50,000 transactions that's coming is set to, solve those problems, because there aren't a lot of networks that can handle that volume of transactions per second. Right.
Yeah, it's per second, not per day. I think, EHR data, their goal is to get, for example, they're starting with one state and they're going to go to more, getting all opioid pharmaceutical prescriptions recorded on chain. If that happens, you're talking, you're talking a huge number of transactions on chain, because each pharmaceutical prescription generates 4 to 8 transactions on the chain.
Right. Yeah. So I think there, like you said, there are a lot of exciting things, right? A lot of exciting things for BSV, a lot of exciting things for Beaxy, and we're looking forward to, as James alluded to in the beginning, doing more of these, right? Maybe we can have follow-up webinars, and we can explore advancements in both of our companies.
Absolutely, and I think there's will be a lot happening across the year as BSV continues its evolution and distinguishes itself from the rest of the market. For your audience members who are interested in learning more, they can visit bitcoinsv.com, which is our master general information site, as well as bitcoinassociation.net, which is my organization site, which has a lot of up-to-date information on the exciting news in BSV land.
That's perfect. All right, thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, thank you for having me.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jimmy.